All right, folks, Jeff finally got a memorable URL. It's jeffsawesomepods.com. His two main shows are going strong. Shattered Worlds RPG is an actual play pod featuring spaceships, magic, zombies, and, yes, robots. And Foolish Wits is a weekly chat show about writing, Shakespeare, daily nonsense, and comedy. Find all the info you need at his sweet-ass new URL, jeffsawesomepods.com.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, a Song of Ice and Fire 2. The co-host Switcheroo, the rereading, Return to Westeros HBO Spoiler Edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. Bringing you the greatest hits from the year 2000. Call in with your requests now. In this episode, we are going to be covering chapters 6 and 7, Sansa and Jon. In these chapters, they each meet an important figure for their futures, the Queen of Thorns and Mance Rayder. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
And they both get a song.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
I suppose that is true. What'd you think of those songs? The bear. All
the
covered
bear,
with hair.
The bear song and the Dornish wife song. At least the Dornish wife song was funny at the end. If, like, sleeping with another man's wife is funny.
Hilarious.
You know? The bear song, I didn't care for that.
Why not? What's wrong with the bear? For me, it's always sounded like it's I'm a maiden who's protesting, and then he licks the honey from my hair, and I'm like, I bet he did. And
do you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I was just assuming that it was a baughty, like, analogy sort of thing.
This came up on a podcast ages ago, to the point where listeners went and found it for me and tagged me in it in the group. The bear who wasn't a bear because he had no hair.
Oh,
do you remember that?
I do remember this conversation. Yeah, I forgot about that. What was that?
So,
how did that come up? Was that Harry Potter?
It was probably Harry Potter. I think that's what we were doing, but who knows? And much like then, that bear who wasn't a bear thing lives in my brain sort of rent-free, but it also exists in a real sort of ephemeral kind of way. So, like, I couldn't tell you the whole gist of the cartoon. I just remembered that it's, the bear who wasn't a bear.
Right.
It's just a man with really long hair.
It's so awful.
It's such a weird thing. So I got, like, kind of distracted with the bear song because there's a lot of refrain of,
all covered
but you're a
in
bear. All black and brown and covered with hair. And I couldn't really take it seriously, guys. So I apologize. I know that this, right, the bear and the maiden thing, I remember from the show that being a thing with Brienne and Jaime. They get waylaid, I forget, right, by some treacherous people. And they put her in, like, a pit to fight a bear.
Right. Oh,
right?
my God, I forgot. Yeah.
Right? So, the thing is, I guess this is the well-known song of the land that makes that a funny thing to them to put her in that position, I guess, right?
Right.
But if there's anything else I was supposed to take away from this song that's happening in the background, Y'all, I didn't. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's like you're supposed to take it away. It's just like, all right, spoilers, you will hear this song again. It's the thing. It's not as much of a thing as in the show, because in the show, they basically act like The Bear and the Maiden Fair is the only song that Westeros has ever heard. But in the book, there's a lot more of variety of songs. But The Bear and the Maiden Fair is basically, it's treated like the sort of song that a person trots out who doesn't know any other songs. It's like the equivalent of like 21 bottles of beer on the wall, kind of. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But I think the more that I heard like other lyrics from it, I was just like, oh, okay. So this is about a guy seducing a woman and going down on her, probably. So, all right, good, I guess. Good for you, girl. So, all right. Starting with Sansa, let's begin. She has gotten an invitation to go and have dinner with Margaery Tyrell. And understandably, her first reaction is, why though? Yeah. What does she want? What is this? Is she trying to trick me? Is Joffrey trying to trick me? Did he set this up? He might have set this up, and I don't know if I should go because then he's just going to do something shitty to me. Yeah.
She is definitely, I mean, it's explicitly said at one point that, you know, she's learned a couple of things since she's been in King's Landing, and one of them is just like to not fucking trust anybody. So she is looking for the agenda immediately. Which, you know, because she's smart and she is learning, you know, in real time to be wary of people, regardless of what, you know, what they say when they first appear. She has to be like, what are you really up to though? This chapter it's funny. I remember from the show when this happens. And this chapter, it follows the beats of what happened on the show pretty well, but there's a couple of small changes that have me really intrigued. If I'm not wrong, on the like here, she thinks that it's Loras.
Yes, right.
And it turns out to be another brother named Willis, I think. I think on the show it was Loras.
I think you're right.
That they were going to do. And this walk that she has with Loras to the lunch, on the show it was really pretty, but it was quick, right?
Yeah.
And in the book here, he starts out really nice, but then she just kind of reminds him of some shit that he doesn't want to think about, and his mood turns very sour towards the end.
Yeah, he's like very unfriendly by the time it's over.
Yeah, and I don't remember that being how that goes on the show. I don't think that there's that secondary conversation. I think on the show she's just like, you know, oh, he's so handsome, and she's so tickled that he's escorting her, and I think she asked them about when they met the first time or something at the tourney.
Yeah.
And then I don't think anything, I mean, I could be forgetting, but I don't think anything else happens. So reading this, I was like, oh, he's upset now. and why is she bringing up all this shit that he doesn't want to talk about?
It's really interesting to me, too, the difference in the Loras in the books versus the show. Because the Loras in the books feels much more reserved in a lot of ways. And you can read between the lines and understand a lot of what's going on, but it doesn't ever feel like he's being overly demonstrative. It's just us using our fucking common sense and our modern lens to be like, oh, all right. And in the show, they have him be a little bit more like hot-headed sometimes, and like, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's just like a sort of, he feels so much more internal, I guess, in the books. It all feels like he's going through some shit, but he's keeping himself to himself while he does. As much as he's allowed to, considering the circumstances that he's in.
Yeah.
And then there's the fact that he doesn't remember giving her the rose and how important that was to her to realize that he doesn't even remember it at all.
Yeah.
That one felt so relatable to me. Like, as a young girl, you're trained to see everything through the lens of how many guys like you. and how...
And the quality of the men that like you.
Right. And if they are... Like, the idea that something that for you felt like this victory, really, in a way, and it turns out that it was just meaningless and a performative thing in the moment, how crushing that would be. I just really feel like that would have... If I probably stopped to think about it, there would be something in my history where I could point to and be like, this is like that exact thing where I thought this meant something and it didn't. But I can't think of anything specific. It just feels like a very real moment to me. And it doesn't even have to be that the guy's gay and he doesn't give a shit. You know, it's just like he was just doing a thing because it was supposed to be a moment. He was supposed to be gallant in that. Yeah,
instance. It's what the moment called for, not necessarily because she was there. Like, it could have been anyone. Yeah. It could have been any, like, pretty young girl there, and it would have served just fine. It reminds me of, like, sort of, if you go to, like, a con or, you know, in my case, like, a show or something, and you meet someone, and you think that, like, oh, this is the best night ever. Like, we had this great conversation, you know, it was awesome. And then you see them the next time the con or the show comes back around. And you can't wait to see them again because you had this moment last time. And they're just like, hey, nice to see you. And they act exactly the way they did the last time you saw them. Not because they remember your encounter, but because this is how they behave in the situation. Yeah. And then you realize, oh, yeah, that moment for me and that moment for them were two different things.
That's something that I find really interesting about the, like, concept of celebrity in general is, like, the difference in the way some people handle, like, fans and stuff like that versus others. And, like, there are some actors who just clearly resent having to deal with fans at all because for them that's not what this is about. They just want to do their job and enjoy their job. And instead it's turned into this, like, very high energy, high labor sort of junkets that they have to go on every time a new thing comes out. And I know that a lot of people are like, well, you know, that's what you sign up for. And if you're going to be a dick about it, maybe this isn't the job for you. And a part of me understands that perspective. And another part of me is just, as somebody who can be overwhelmed by the very small amount that I do, I can't imagine how tiring and constant that must be. And I'm just like, no, I get it. They can be mad about it. It's fine.
It sounds awful to me, quite frankly. I'm not going to, like, hedge on it at all. That sounds like a terrible way to live. You know, being responsible for people's perception of you in that way, you know, on such a large scale. Because all of us, as we navigate our lives, are responsible in some way for how people see us, based on how we behave, right? But you can manage it some when it's just your little world.
Right.
But my God, imagine if it was the whole goddamn world expecting you to be a certain thing, and then they meet you, and you don't live up to that, and then next thing you know, you're fucking trending on Twitter. And you're like, I just wanted to have a cup of coffee, though. Like,
yep, exactly. I think that's the thing, is how quickly it'll spread that you were an asshole. There was one day, long ago, where you could be a dick to somebody and they would just tell their 3 friends. And you would just have, like, a bad rep with those 3 people that you would never see again. But that's not how that goes anymore.
Let me tell you how that stuff lasts, too. John Waters, who I generally enjoy, was making the rounds a little bit recently with his take on modern culture and blah, blah. And it was reductive, as you would expect, and kind of boring and blah, 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 blah. These kids today sort of thing. And I was reminded that, like, 12 years ago, a friend of mine went to a signing of one of his new books and got to, like, meet him as part of the experience that he bought, you know? And my friend didn't even say anything that bad. But just that it was overall not as much fun as he had hoped it would be, and he found John Waters to not be engaging at all and to really be behaving as if this was a real big, like, ask, even though he had paid, like, you know, this crazy amount of money for the signing and all that. And that shit is still in my brain.
That is amazing.
So that when I was reading this take, I was like, oh, this fucking guy. So yeah, that shit does stick in your brain.
It does. I mean, the one that I always think of, and Jamie, I think, listens to this show, and so she'll know what I'm talking about. I am super into what's the guy who played James Bond like 3 times? And Ian? No, is it Ian?
No,
fuck.
No,
I'm gonna look him up. But
there was Pierce Brosnan
that
only played a couple times. There's Daniel Craig, who's Bond now.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Fuck.
No, I'm like trying to find it now. But this actor was somebody that Jamie had met because of various events. Like, she has worked in TV and film, and her boyfriend works in TV and film. And it was just like a really ugly meeting. Like, the guy was extremely dismissive of her, and when she like greeted him because he was interrupting a conversation she was already having with Simon Pegg, who was really, really nice, she says, this guy acted like she should have known this was her cue to leave, and he could not believe that she would continue speaking and stay in this like little circle of people. Timothy Dalton, that's who it was.
Oh.
And just was like, just gave her this like appalled look, like, are you still fucking here and you're talking to me? Are you kidding?
Ugh.
Yeah. So ever since, I've just been like, wow.
Oh, fuck him.
That guy. Timothy Dalton, if you're listening, be nicer.
Right? Don't be such a dick.
Don't be such a dick. It's a shame, though, because he was my favorite Bond, because he just had like this whole energy that he brought that was very different. But he only was Bond in like 3 movies or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. So eventually she sends her note of acceptance. She gets brought over by Loras. She is dropped off, and she has mentioned on the way over, like, oh, isn't your grandmother the Queen of Thorns? And he's like, yeah, but maybe don't call her that to her face. And she's like, oh, fuck, of course I should.
Right. This is such a weird thing, but she's so flustered and sort of enamored of Loras that she's like having difficulty thinking, and like she's tongue-tied and all that kind of stuff. So she's not like at her best.
Yeah, very much.
And she is, I mean, she's really out of sorts this whole chapter, because she's so unsure about what she's walking into, and then having Loras be the one that escorts her, like she swings from one end to the other extreme, and she's just not on her game. Mm-hmm. Not at all. Like, the whole conversation with Loras goes wildly left. When she first gets in with the ladies, that's a little awkward.
Oh my God, yeah.
This was really funny too, as we find out, I remember there was like a bunch of ladies at the lunch, kind of hanging outside, but we didn't like talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. I don't think we met anybody, but here we find out like who's all here, and she does not have a very high opinion of her. Like, what did she call it? Like a flock of hens?
My flock of foolish hens. Yep. I find her to be. I loved the performance that what's her name gave when she was Queen of Thorns in the show, but I honestly, this is a rare time where in the book I like her even better. She is just so. There is something so much more dismissive about her. In the show, it felt like she was just, kind of joshing to a point, just to like keep people off balance and make people uncomfortable a little bit, and to be irreverent. Mm-hmm. And in this, it really feels like she has no time for any of these idiots. Like, I can't believe I fucking have to deal with this shit still. I am this old. Can't I be done? But no, there's no other competent person to take my place, so I'm stuck doing this. Thanks. Like,
yeah, there is definitely a bit more like harshness and bitterness. Not bitterness, but like, well, a little bit bitterness. Mm-hmm. To her tone in this chapter, at least. She doesn't seem as... Like, one of the things... Who was it that played her? Was that Maggie Smith?
No, but it feels like it would have been Maggie Smith.
Who was her name? I can't think of her name.
I'm going to look her up as well.
Are all, like, screaming and yelling at us right now. Was it... No, I'll let you look it up.
Yeah, just let me look it up. Remember. Give me a second. But Diana Rigg.
Okay. On the show, like you said, like there's a sort of she's couched in like very much like sweet old lady TM. Mm-hmm. so that when her sharpness comes out, it is a little surprising because it's so unexpected, you know.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I'm gathering from this chapter is that should just be expected on GP, because this is just apparently how she gets down. Like, I feel like this is, you know, like the thing about the nickname. It's funny when you watch the show, my takeaway was when you think about like the name Queen of Thorns, dismissing the whole flower stuff.
Right.
I just think of it as like, oh, well, you know, just a little prickly. You got to be careful, you know. You got to be careful. But this, in the book, she is just like a ball of thorns.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, it's her whole thing. You know, this is her whole steez. And I feel like there's no, like, softening of it.
Yeah.
She is very, very open with her disdain for multiple people, mostly men, in her life and in the world. And she has every right to be. And I love that it feels like, I can't tell if this is how she's always been, which I love the idea of that, but I don't think it's true. But I love the idea. Or if this is just part of what she gets to do as she's aged, you know?
Yeah.
And the expectations of her station are a little bit different than maybe when she was younger and married to the Lord Tyrell, and, you know, before he died, and she was like actively ruling. This is, I think, is more of like, well, I'm older now and I can just say whatever the fuck I want to say.
Yeah.
But I will say one more time, in my heart, I want this to be how she's always been.
Yeah, I'm willing to go with that. We'll say that.
And she is surprisingly candid with Sansa, which has to be really disorienting, considering what Sansa's been through the last couple years and who she's been surrounded by. To have someone sit down and just say to her face, "Oh, that motherfucker is dumb as fuck," you know. And this is what I think of the king, and this is what I think of the queen, and, you know. Sansa is hesitant, and she has every right to be.
Yeah.
You know, but eventually she does end up telling them what she really thinks about Joffrey, which is the whole reason they've called her here. That's what they want to know. They want to know about Joffrey.
Yeah, and I'm going to read some of the more entertaining bits. So, Loras is young and very good at knocking men off horses with a stick. That does not make him wise. As to your father, would that I'd been born a peasant woman with a big wooden spoon. I might have been able to beat some sense into his fat head. What will Sansa think of us? She might think we have some wits about us. One of us, at any rate. It's treason. I warned them. Robert has 2 sons. Renly has an older brother. How can he possibly have any claim to that ugly iron chair? Tut, tut, says my son. Don't you want your sweetling to be queen? You Starks were kings once, the Aarons and Lannisters as well, and even the Baratheons through the female line, but the Tyrells were no more than stewards until Aegon the Dragon came along and cooked the rightful king of the Reach in the Field of Fire. And basically goes on to be like, we ain't shit. Like, yeah, we got this name, we have this power now, but it's all bullshit. We were nothing, and now we're something, and I guess, but... Right. It's all garbage.
And, like, kind of low-key telling Sansa, like, yeah, y'all used to be somebody, too, but now look at you. You know? Basically, like, it's meaningless, and it changes, you know, and you can't count on it. When she talks about beating him around the head, doesn't she tell Sansa, like, if you ever have kids, make sure you beat them a lot so they'll listen to you?
I wish I had beat him a lot more often. I beat him hardly at all, and now look at what the fuck I have to deal with. The thought of one day seeing his grandson on, with his ass on the Iron Throne makes Mace puff up like... What do you call it? They call them puffish. Of course they do. Summer Islanders have no imagination.
Yeah, it's very good. I want to mention, too, at the very beginning of the chapter, before she leaves with Laura, she is Sansa is thinking about her situation and sort of thinking about the Hound as well. And she still has this cloak that she's keeping in her dresser or her chest of drawers or whatever. And she doesn't seem 100% sure why she's doing that.
Yeah.
And she's wondering if she made a bad call by choosing to not go with him. And she wishes a little bit that he was there. And she also is thinking about, at the beginning of the chapter, the difference between when she rode through the small folk and they tried to almost kill her versus how Margaery has arrived.
Yeah.
With people throwing flowers, and all that.
Yeah. Do you think she made a mistake? Like, do you think it would have worked if she went with the Hound? I can't decide.
Well, it's difficult for me to have a good opinion on that isn't so influenced by the story on the show, right? Because in my imagination, when I think about Sansa leaving with the Hound, I can't help but picture a sort of like road show, like buddy travel show, like we got, like what we got with Arya,
right?
And I don't think that would have gone the same way, because Arya and Sansa are just so different.
Yeah.
But I think he would have done his best to keep her safe. But for some reason, I don't know. I don't think he would have been able to get her where she needed to be. And I think she would have been difficult to deal with on a journey like that.
I think you're right. I don't think, part of me feels like she should have gone, and another part of me is just like, I just feel like that was ill-fated. The two of them, it would have been a constant clashing, and he's one man, and she is this, like, just on the cusp of womanhood, like, beauty, and, she's a prime fucking target due to that, and is he just alone going to be enough to, like, keep her protected, and there's also, I know we had this conversation when that was happening in the story, and you were letting me know, about some parts of the fandom that, like, really shipped them. And I don't know if the Hound and Sansa traveling, if George Martin, the writer, how he would have chosen to handle that. Would it have been a constant battle of him, of the Hound fighting, his worst instincts, Would that have been part of the story? Would I have had to read about how she's so beautiful and it's taken everything in him to, like, keep his hands to himself? You know what I mean? And not saying that George Martin would have had the Hound actually do anything, but I'm not even interested in reading about that particular struggle, And I just don't know if he would have been able to keep, if George Martin would have been able to resist that sort of plot line. You know what I mean? And it's interesting too, because, like, if we read, like, I'm assuming that we would still be in her POV for it. So how much of that would she even see? How much would we get to see of it? But
that's a good point. That we would most likely be in her POV. Yeah. Well, that's even worse though, because because imagine if she's, she is feeling that and picking up on that struggle, because quite frankly, people are not as good at hiding stuff like that as they think they are. Then that means I would have had to read her being worried if she's going to be safe through the night, I don't want to read that either.
Fair. Oh my god, lemon cakes are my favorite. So we have been told that various creatures seem to think we should be grateful for the information. I've never been quite sure what the point of a eunuch is, if truth be told. It seems to me they're only men with the useful bits cut off. Oh my god, I swear to God.
What is even a point of a man?
They're only men. Borderline useless anyway. And then the one decent thing that they do for us is gone. I mean, really, why are we here?
Yeah, this is a really, this is a very harsh stance she's taking here about the usefulness of men. She just seems unimpressed with practically all the men she's ever met in her life, from what I can tell. Her father, her husband, her sons.
The one guy that she has anything nice to say about is Willis. He's the only one that she's like, he's a good boy. And that's
Yeah.
kind of it.
So, all right. So, what's not in the show is this fucking butter bumps situation. I don't.
Sorry.
You guys, I don't know if I can do this. If this is what I have to do. Butter bumps.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm adjusting my mic, but honestly, this is the worst name, first of all. Second of all, it's like having, like, your 5-year-old little brother at the table, but he's just better at magic. He's described as being an immense, round, fat man. So I guess, you know, he's also at one point juggling shit and like bouncing it off his ass cheeks. And all right, I might as well just come out and say it now. I think I may have said it when we were first met. What's his name? Patchface. I think I am uncomfortable with a lot of the jesters and the mummers and that aspect of these books, which I've heard over the years is a pretty consistent thing throughout all of them, like to the point where they're like, I guess, spin-off stories about some of these people or stories or something. I don't know. Theories and whatnot, sure.
But I know that this is part of this world, you know, that we're bringing in jesters to laugh and relieve tension, and in this scene actually provide cover for some real truth talking. But you guys, I just have to really speed read through these moments. Because I just simply cannot.
That's, in my opinion, very fair. It's the kind of thing that makes me feel all the more divorced from the people of this universe, because I'm like, they like it? They like it. I guess they like it? It just keeps sounding like the worst possible thing to me.
It really does. Like, remember,
like,
in the middle of the fucking Battle of Blackwater when they bring that fucking guy out to entertain all the... Like, every time these guys show up to, like, relieve the tension or whatever it is supposed to be doing, it is making my tension 10 times worse.
Yep.
It just don't care for it. But, yeah, so this guy is here, and he comes in handy a little bit later when they are trying to, you know, get the truth around Joffrey and what Sansa's experience with him has been. And she is, my God, she is just, you know, trying her best to be diplomatic. Yeah. You know, he's very handsome. He's very comely.
Oh, brother.
And they're like, bitch, you said that already. What else?
I appreciate it so much. At one point, Margaery, like, chimes in and it's like, grandmother, she's fucking terrified. Look at her. Give her a break for a second and let her just, like, come back to herself and figure this out. Because, this is just, like, obviously very triggering. And
it's weird that, this is the other thing, too. From what I remember of the show, when they are having this kind of, like, get Sansa to tell the truth, they do it in a way that is, like, this is very safe. It's just us. You can tell us anything. You know, we would never let anything bad happen to you. You can trust us. And I think those words might have even been said in the book a little bit. But at one point, Lady Olenna is like, I asked you a question and you were staring at me, you know, or you're not even looking at me. You're fucking staring at Butterbumps. I asked you a question. I'm waiting for an answer. And you're just like, God damn, lady.
Give her a second, for fuck's sake. Yeah, 100%. It was, and poor Sansa is just like, just panicking because it's so unclear to her. Is this a trap? How much do they know already? Like, if I deny it, all of this.
There's a line, I'm not sure exactly when it happens, but it's around this time, right before Sansa really starts to tell the truth. And they're like, yeah, tell us the truth. And she says, yeah, you know what? My father told the truth, like, all the time. You know? And she didn't even have to finish the sentence. She was just like, yeah. And then Lady Olenna says something like, yeah, he had a reputation for telling the truth, and they took his head off. And then she's like, but yeah, you're gonna. I'm still gonna need you to tell
Yep.
me though.
It's like, my sympathy. Now, can we get back to what I want? Thanks. Yes, but this whole thing is just. I feel like you said, it's just really well written. Just that moment of her being like, "Oh, you just want me to be honest," and that sounds like it's nothing. But guess what?
Yeah, exactly. Like, let me remind you that I've seen with my own eyes what can happen when somebody's a little too fucking honest around, like when they're in a fucking den of snakes. And I would have liked for a little bit more of a understanding of the weight of what Sansa has just said when she says that. But really all we get is just, yes, he had that reputation and he named him a traitor and took his head off. I thought that was an opportunity for like maybe a little bit more tenderness. But it doesn't really matter because Sansa ends up just basically doing an info dump after she brings up her father. And which I imagine is just because it's just still so emotional that once she started to think of that, the pain of everything is like begging to be, to come out. And she ends up telling them that, Joffrey is who fucking took his head off. And then, promised me that he'd be merciful and then made me go up and stare at his fucking severed head. So that's the thing that happened.
And he called that mercy.
And she immediately thinks to herself, what the fuck have I just done? I said way too much. Oh my God. Like, there's real fear and panic. And Margaery and Lady Olenna are still just like, okay, and go on. And what else? It's weird. Like, my experience when I was watching this is so different than now and then reading it, right? I think when I was watching it, I was so desperate for Sansa to have allies, and it felt like a moment of like, well, maybe these people really will be here to help her, I guess I kind of just fell for it, in a way that like you don't now once you know how things really ended up working out. But reading the book, they are not nearly, Margaery and Lady Olenna aren't nearly as comforting,
Right.
as they were in the show. So I found myself watching the show being like, yes, tell him everything. Tell him, And reading the book, I'm like, girl.
Yeah, right? Like, agreed. It just feels so like, I mean, I want to trust them because I just want her to know what she's getting into. I just want Margaery to be warned. I don't want Sansa to be the one to inform them, though. I don't want her in the position where she's potentially gonna be caught saying this shit, and God knows what'll happen to her.
Yeah, it's and then the thing with Butterbumps. I can't, you guys. I can't. That's like the nickname some old guy that like played cards with my dad would have. Like this is old Butterbumps.
Oh,
I grew up with him in the neighborhood. I just like, but anyway. Oh, sweet Jesus! This is when they ask him to perform the song, the bear song, and it is a way to give them some privacy, right? As and to make Sansa feel like she's safe, because Sansa's at this point is like, I've already said too much. Fucking Varys is everywhere. He always knows everything. I cannot say anymore. And Lady Olenna is just like, we all know the Red Keep, has walls that can hear. And this is what I'll do to make you feel safe. And she has this guy, like, fucking belt out this tune louder and louder.
Amazing. I love that. So, and she's like, give us a nice long one too. And then at the end, she's like, I thought that fucking song would never end. And I'm like, you asked for a fucking long song that you specifically said that you wanted something long. What the fuck? But also, it's what I enjoy about her, so I can't even be mad.
So, there's this line too. Lady Olenna is like, tell us about this kid who's a Baratheon, but sure looks like a Lannister.
She knows. She knows.
I really love that little thing, and there's like no acknowledgement of it. It's just a thing she says, right? And then we just keep moving. But I love that she said it.
Same. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Thank you for reminding me of that line. That's a good one. I spy with my little eye. And
right, basically.
Pretty sure.
So she tells them, some of the stuff that has gone through about like how Joffrey behaved. She calls him a flat out monster. And they hear her story and they're just like, well, that's a real shame. Yeah. Isn't it? And then Sansa once again is terrified because she's like, what the fuck if they call the wedding off? Like, they're going to know we had this lunch. They're going to put it together and they're going to fucking blame me for it. And Lady Olenna's like, Lord Pufffish, which I just love that she just goes to that so quickly and so easily.
She does the thing that I do when I can't remember a character name in Spoil Me, and I just pick a name, and then I'm like, nah, that's it now. There was some character whose name was like Hohenheim, something like that, for Full Metal Alchemist, and all I could remember was that it was like vaguely Germanish and started with an H, and I just said Hempstool. I don't know where I picked that. I don't know why. And now he's Hempstool, and that's just what I call him. I remember his actual name mostly, but I don't use it. So yeah, and Lord Pufffish, like, we all know who she means, and it really is evocative. Gives you a picture.
Right.
So yeah, right.
It tells us pretty much everything you need to know about the man, I feel like. So, and she just basically assures Sansa that, yeah, this wedding is happening because he is determined that it should happen. And we're not going to be able to stop it. And then they start asking about whether Sansa would like to go visit Highgarden. Yeah. And we find out that there is a part B to this little lunch invitation.
Yeah.
They think that Sansa would fit in well there, that she'd be safe and happy and protected. And it does, I'm not going to lie, sound like a fucking dream. Like, this sounds like a way out of this living fucking nightmare that has been Sansa trapped in King's Landing.
Yeah, there's a real, Sansa's like, this sounds like everything I thought I was going to get coming to King's Landing, actually.
Yeah, right? And Sansa's like, you know what, this sounds fantastic, but what about Cersei, though? Because she's not letting me do or go anywhere. And Lady Olenna feels like they have enough leverage with the power that comes from Highgarden that on this, Cersei would not have a choice but to sort of give in.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's very interesting that Lady Olenna is so confident that Cersei would give in because of the power that Highgarden brings. I think, and this is probably, maybe it's what she meant. It didn't need to be said so plainly. But if anything, I feel like if this were really going to be a thing that happened, Cersei would have to be kind of put into submission, probably most likely by her father. I feel like Cersei would fight this tooth and nail. And maybe Tywin would have to be like, you need to calm down. Do you understand what this alliance means to us? You're going to fucking sit down and shut up and take it.
Right.
You know? I'm trying to also remember, I guess on the show, because I was trying to remember how does Sansa end up getting out, right? And it's the whole thing after the wedding, and then they spirit her off, and then Littlefinger takes her and ends up marrying her to fucking Ramsay Bolton.
Right.
I remember enough conversation to know that is absolutely not how it goes down in the books. And that there is a fake Sansa, her friend, I think, Jane Poole.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody else ends up marrying Ramsay in Sansa's place. So what that means is I literally have no idea what happens to Sansa in the books. Because if she doesn't end up married off to Ramsay, what's she doing? Where's she at, though? Right? And if they think it's Sansa that married Ramsay, that means that Sansa is somewhere, but they don't know it's her. Right. She must be somewhere pretending to be someone else. And I have no idea. I have been trying so hard to remember. Like, if I know the Jenny Poole stuff, I feel like somebody must have told me what Sansa was really doing. I have no idea. I cannot remember to save my life. And it's really salty about it because I know it. I know someone told me at some point. And it's really pissing me off that I can't remember. So that is just like a huge, like, black spot. It's like nothing there. So I'm so curious what's going to happen with this. Like, I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I guess she can't, in the book, she can't end up at Highgarden married to Willis, because why would he marry someone and not, like, would he take Sansa and, like, keep her as I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I just don't know, guys. I don't know. I have no idea where her story is about to go. And I didn't even realize how little of an idea I had until this whole marriage proposal comes up in this chapter. Because I had forgotten that she ends up married to Ramsay. And that triggered that memory. And I was like, oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. So I'm really excited to find out what the fuck happens. But for now, I don't know. I don't think this part of the plan ends up being a thing that happens. As far as her, like, married to Willis. Because, again, do they marry even though their son he's injured, right? He has, like, a bad leg or something.
Yeah, his leg got crushed under a horse when it jumped, like, awkwardly at one point, and the horse fell.
Yeah. There's also some smoke with Oberyn Martell with this, which is interesting, because I don't remember that. Like, Willis, I don't think was anything on the show, so I guess this plot line didn't need to be on the show. The only thing I know about Oberyn was that it was his sister that the mountain, crushed. I'm trying to think of, like, anything other than, like, raped her to death. Yeah. So I need to know why she's mad. She's mad because they went for, like, help.
It was sort of a weird thing. I'm going to try and find the spot, but it sounded almost like she was saying that the maester that tended him was not adequate, That's what it sounds like. Like, they couldn't get back. Where is it? She says, it was Stake of a Dornishman was to blame, that Oberyn Martell and his maester as well. Yeah. So it's unclear, but yeah, definitely has a little bit of a grudge there, clearly. Yeah.
But there's a moment when they're talking about bringing her to Highgarden, and she just they said to see you wed, because she's like, why would I be going there? And they're like, to see you safely wed to my grandson, and Sansa is like, fucking jackpot. Right? Poor fucking Sansa. Mega Millions lottery. Oh, God. And she just is in her head already. She's thinking about him in his white silk and how beautiful he is, and the dimples, the corner of his mouth, and how she stands on her toes to kiss him.
Running her fingers over his chest. She's starting to have, like, a straight up, like, fantasy over here.
Yeah. She's, like, fucking about to really have a moment. And she says to them, I think one of them asked her, like, would you be pleased? Like, would this make you happy? And she's like, yes, I would love to wed Loras. I'd love him so much. And Lady Olenna's like, Loras, bitch. He's in the Kingsguard.
You can't get married. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Right? She's like, didn't they teach you anything? God damn. She's so disgusted. And like, she's disappointed and disgusted, and almost like maybe this bitch shouldn't marry my grandson. Not even the one with the bad leg. Like, I don't know about that. She bringing dumb jeans.
Oh my God.
Like, it is such a quick turnaround. And poor Sansa is just like, but I don't know him though. And she asked if he's a great knight, and once again, they have to remind her that no, he hasn't taken the vows, because if he had took the vows, he probably wouldn't be able to fucking marry you. So, stop asking. Yeah.
But just stop asking. Oh, I don't know why that got me so bad, but
it's just how I feel like that was like sort of the mood there. Yeah, and so, oh my god, and this guy is still belting out this fucking Maiden and the Bear song, so that each, like, paragraph of dialogue between the ladies is interrupted by him screaming about this fucking bear. And it's really, makes it hard to read, I'm not gonna lie. It's really, like...
distracting, disruptive.
It's all of those things and more. And when they tell her that it's going to be Willis, then it's like he's yelling, "I called for a knight, but you're a bear." And then they tell her about his leg. He's got a bad leg, but a good heart. And then the song is, "She kicked and wailed the male so fast." It's just like that's why I said earlier, like, I feel like maybe I was supposed to take a little bit more from this song, and I think I may have missed out on, because now that I'm looking at it and seeing how some of the lines are sort of in a weird way commenting on the conversation,
right.
You know, that I don't think I appreciated that for what it is when I was reading through, because some of it is kind of funny. Because the last thing is when they're like, you know, she wants to know when she'll meet him, and they're like, "You're going to meet him soon. You'll come to High Garden after the wedding." And Margaery tells Sansa that my grandmother will take you, and then Lady Olenna is like, "I will," and pats Sansa's hand, kind of like everything's going to be okay. And then it just is in all caps. And then she sighed and squealed, kicked the air.
Oh my god, sir, tone it down.
Yeah. And then that's the end. And then that's when she's just like, "Can you fucking that goddamn song just went on forever?" And he's just like, "Yeah, per your fucking request."
Exactly. Per your last email. All right, so now we go on to Jon. And he is being led to meet Mance Rayder. And we get a little bit of info about how he has been fitting into things so far. Apparently, Ghost had to, like, do his prison yard pick a fight on the first day kind of thing to lay down his...
Let these hoes know.
And...
yeah, he's still getting, you know, a lot of sort of, like, threats like, "Yeah, you're here now, but as soon as we take you to Mance and he figures out you're fucking full of shit and you're false, then we're just going to, like, slice your belly open." So it's a real kind of, you don't want to count, you know, too many days. Like, this could be it for you.
Yeah, that is, this dude just keeps on, he says something at one point about, like, "I'll cut your stomach open and I'll put a weasel in you." And this dude's like, where are you going to find a weasel, though? Where's that at?
This is too much. This is calm down. You just cut your stomach open is fine. You could just end it there. That's fine.
Like, why do we have to do all this extra stuff?
And there's also like this was hard to read. In I guess it's supposed to be like, it must be really difficult for Jon, and that's what's being, like, expressed. But everybody in the group has, like, something from the half hand.
Yeah.
So there's, like, this guy with his cloak, and that guy's got his boots, and that guy's got his sword.
Yep. This is something that I always think about, because there's, like, in video games, you know, you defeat an enemy and then you get to loot the body. And obviously, like, that is also probably how this all went all the time. But it's a very different thing when you're still walking around with somebody and you have their shit. Like, the energy
right?
of pulling that cloak on and then making eye contact with Jon and being like,
Exactly.
Right.
Like, it's one thing to, like, you know, they raid you, they kill, they take the stuff from their bodies, and then they skedaddle, right? But you're, like, with them. You're watching them, and everybody is, like, all decked out in your homeboy's shit.
Yep.
It just has to be, like, really difficult to bear down on your feelings of wanting to, like, avenge, you know, or, you know, take them to task for, you don't get to wear that, how dare
Right.
you, you know. And he can't give in to any of those feelings because he's on this undercover mission now, so he's got to just put all that shit aside. And then he's also got a little bit of survivor's guilt happening.
Oh, definitely,
You know,
yeah.
with everyone, you know, on top of the fact that he actually did kill the half hand, even though it was part of, you know, this ruse, but still. So he's got the guilt of having survived when a lot of his fellow Night's Watchmen did not, and that he killed the half hand, and now he is, you know, all fucking crewed up with the enemy, you know? It's fucking like gang over here. He's
Oh my
just,
God.
you know, just having a lot of mixed emotions about it.
I kept thinking about, there's, I was telling you before we started about this book that I've been reading, or maybe, no, yeah, I was, because we were talking about, like, corporate culture. And it's like a magic school, but it's sort of meant to be, like, cutthroat, and you sort of leave the students to their devices after classes, and whoever just comes out on top comes out on top. And in that universe, it's a similar thing where you can, like, challenge anyone to a duel, and then keep a token or more than one once you've beaten them.
That sounds like some serial killer shit.
Well, it's like people have like healing potions on them, or they have like storage rings where you can keep a bunch of stuff and it's like in this really small space, or they've got weapons that you've been wanting because they work with the type of magic you use. So that for me is almost worse too, because now you're still alive and you're watching somebody else like walking around and winning other duels using your shit that they got off you, you know? Just, that would make me so angry. I would never get over it.
That's
Not
funny.
built
There
for
was
it.
was talking to my nephew is really into Pokemon cards right now. And he's got a pretty solid collection, and he brought it with him to his little birthday dinner because that's what little kids do. They just bring their shit with them everywhere. So he was trying to explain it to Steven, and they got to talking about collecting cards, and he wanted to know, like, did they do that when you were little? What kind of games could you play? And Steve was telling him how the really only game they would play is with baseball cards, and they would play like Flip It. And you would duel with your baseball cards, and then if you won, you got to take the other kid's card. And he was talking about the feeling of, like, losing your best cards to somebody else. And then, like, you have to see him after recess is over and you go back in the class, but you give them the stink eye because they just got your best card or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't have anything like that. Like, you know,
I didn't either.
The thing that was in fashion at the time for me was an onion on my belt and also a pog. We had pogs. That was our thing. But pogs were one of those things where everybody acted like there was a game, but nobody ever actually played the game. That wasn't the thing. You were allegedly collecting them for a game, and really it was just about having awesome holographic pogs.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, not for nothing, but that's the gist of the Pokemon cards as far as I can tell, too. Like, he's got all these cards, and Steve was like, do you play a game with them? And he was like, I don't know. But I got this card, though. This card's worth $115.
God damn.
Yeah, when I was little, I was really into collecting stickers when I was in, like, 2nd and 3rd grade. I had a banana sticker collection. I had albums and albums of them, and I had them separated by, like, which I guess now you would say like by fandom, but like by brand, you know, whatever toy the sticker was.
Right.
I had books and books of scratch and sniff stickers, and then I had a bunch on sheets that weren't in my albums, and those were for trading.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then that's probably it. That's probably the only thing I ever got really like serious about collecting in my whole life.
Yeah, I won't say that I got serious about collecting stickers because it was never really like that. But I did love them and have a ton of them. And there was some like tweet I saw that was like, if you used to collect tons of stickers but never actually stuck them on anything, congratulations, you're an adult with anxiety now. And it's like, that is really unfair and extremely correct. And that was part of the appeal of Pogs, was that like, even if I played a game with them, they wouldn't be ruined. It wasn't like, you use a sticker on something, that's it. That's a wrap for that sticker. Yeah. That is where it is.
I did not stick my stickers anywhere but in my sticker books too, which is really unfortunate. Like, I wasn't like putting them all over my room and all, like stuff like that. I wasn't decorating anything.
Your book covers or something at school.
I was just amassing. Yep. Like the closest I would come to decorating with stickers was to decorate the sticker album. Like, I might put a couple stickers on the front, and like that was it.
Would you agonize over which sticker to put on the front?
Yes.
That feels like a really big decision to me.
Yes, I would. This is the face that this album is showing the whole world. It's got to have this, like, its best face.
Exactly.
So, you know who else
I
likes
have to pick the best sticker, but also I don't want to use up my best sticker, though.
All this talking of collecting and then, like, going into this fucking rattle shirt guy and what he has from Half Hand are the actual bones. Like, that's
this fucking guy.
And now my sticker collection doesn't feel nearly as bad.
Fair. Yeah, and his whole, like, later on, he takes his helmet off, and Jon is like, oh, ew.
It's like when a guy shaves his beard. It's like that.
Oh, no. Oh, and, like, when he shaves his beard, I'm just like, all right, just, like, stay away from me for a couple days. I can't handle it. Every time I look at him, he's like a stranger. It's just like, it's like not even just about how he looks, but how he just doesn't look like himself. And I find it really jarring. And I'll forget that he shaved it off, and he goes to work and he comes back, and I come running out and be like, hey, babe. And I just stop and go, hey, babe.
That's terrible.
Like, just like this moment of like, readjusting, buffering.
I love that it's this thing with Jon being like, boy, they really are free folk. Anytime somebody like talks back, there's a bit where there's like some back and forth about who's going to be guarding who and where they're going to be positioned, and I think it's Rattleshirt says something or somebody else says something kind of slick to Egret, and she's just like, do you want to fucking do it? Because if you want to do it, you can do it, and I'll just bounce. Otherwise, let me do my fucking job. And Jon is just like, these folks are free indeed.
Oh, my God. Over and over again.
But you know what? It's like, it's I guess, difficult for us to imagine, but if you are raised in such a regimented way, where the lines of who is in charge, who gets to say the final word on a thing, and you just have to fucking take it, right? And then you see these other people who are like, yeah, nah, I'm not just gonna take it. I'm gonna tell you what the fuck I think about it too. And maybe my way won't win, but I get to fucking say the thing. Yeah. How incredible that must be. Because you gotta imagine that you lived your whole life and not even considered that was a possibility. Like, you're so trained. It's
like going to your friend's house and they talk back to their parent and they don't immediately get, like, yanked off their feet and sent to their room, and you're like,
exactly.
Really?
You're like that meme where, like, it's like your brain lights up and then it lights up a little bit more and then, like, the final one, it's just, like, all light. Yep. That's what it must be like. Like, you didn't even know that was an option. Yep. And here's somebody out here just living that way. So as much as it tickles me, I get why he is still just like, would you look at this shit right here? She just said it right to his face.
Meanwhile, I am such a fucking rule follower that I would be scandalized. I wouldn't even be like, I could talk to my parents this way. I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing talking to your parents like this?
You're going to get us all killed.
Respect? You are about to get hit in the face. What are you doing? Like,
you're gonna get us all.
Honestly, really, just like, now you're gonna make me have to sit here while you get punished and be awkward, and then eventually just go home by myself. Cool.
Going to visit a friend and then that friend getting punished while you're there is the worst. And the only thing worse than that is if you somehow end up getting roped into their punishment, which has happened to me.
Oh, yeah. I would get so mad that they would, like, take it upon themselves to, like, who are you? But they're the grown-up. Guess that's happening.
Yep. Like, you go over to your friend's house for a sleepover, she fucking pops off with something slick, and now we're in there washing all the dishes and mopping the floor, and I'm like, I didn't even say nothing. And now we can't watch TV for the rest of the night, but I also can't go home because the adult is not taking me home.
Ugh,
you know, they're definitely not doing me any favors, so now I'm just stuck here getting punished for some shit I didn't do. I had a friend whose house I stopped going to because she so consistently pulled that I stopped falling for the okie doke. I just had to tell her, I can't come spend the night with you because you don't know how to act. And you keep getting me in trouble, and I keep getting stranded at your house, and I'm missing, like, must-see TV because you done got the TV privileges fucked up.
I wonder if that was her mom's whole, like, gambit. Was if I keep doing this, she won't have any friends left, and maybe then she'll fucking learn.
So they are on their way back to, like, the camp, and when they get there, it's finally time for Jon to meet Mance. And I have no memory. Well, the memory I have of this on the show is very spotty. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it goes this way. I can't remember. But I love that when he finally gets there and he walks in and we find, like, all the people who are in the tent. There's a lot of description, too, about the type of people that are camped and how their camping works as well. At one point, he's thinking to himself, like, if there were enough of us at a Night's Watch, we could fuck this whole shit up.
Yeah. Because
they are just camping anywhere. They're not paying attention. They're just, like, doing... It's almost like he's like, they're a bit too free. You know, like a page ago, I was really admiring how free y'all were, but y'all all over the place. This is undisciplined and shoddy.
Yeah, honestly, there is something, like, there was one of the officers from the Night's Watch that was saying, like, they are undisciplined, and even though there's way more of us, of them than us, we are worth more because we're more, you know, like, trained and organized and whatnot, and it looks like it might be more true than it felt at the time.
Yeah, and I like, too, that he mentions, Jon mentions to us that, you know, throughout this encampment that goes on for what seems like forever, there are all different kinds of people. There are children running around. There are women that are, you know, cooking and mending. And at one point, somebody is putting arrows together, and Jon thinks to himself, yeah, those are the arrows to kill my people that they're assembling over there. And I like that as well. I like that kind of reminder that this is not just a gathering of people on their way to war, like what we're seeing in the rest of Westeros, where it's like these armies on the move. This is it's not just an army on the move, but this is like a people, you know, on the move. They are not just men going to battle, and like the little bit of town that springs up around the battlements, you know, like, you know, you have your hookers that show up and your people that show up with food and all that.
Right.
But this is much more of all of us got on the road together to head to wherever it is, you know, that we're heading.
Yeah, so we go into the tent, and there's some dudes there, and Jon makes an assumption about who Mance Rayder is out of this group. Yeah, there's some women, there's a woman. This one does the same thing too, where somebody is singing and the song is sort of like in between paragraphs. There's like a really big guy, like a huge guy who's eating. There's, you know, he's got like all kinds of gold bands all around his arms. And, big white beard.
There's another guy who is really tall and lean. He's got y'all, Tormund, he don't have no ears.
No, Tormund's the one with ears.
Tormund's the one with ears?
Yeah, the white beard is Tormund, and the guy without ears is... shit. I'm trying to find his name here because...
The other guy is named Magnar.
Magnar, okay.
Of Thin.
Right. He's one of the Thens. In the show, I don't know if you recall, but the Thens are like bald, tattooed sort of maniacs. It's a very, very different vibe than the books. They make them into a sort of like cartoon character, really.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember that. The word I remember, thin, sounds like something to me, but I don't remember anything about them specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a white-bearded man and the bald one that are in the tent, and the white-bearded guy is Tormund.
Right.
My Tormund from the show, right?
Correct.
Tormund Giantsbane.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So Jon thinks one of them has to be Mance Rayder. There's also another guy who's just sitting on the floor. He's not very imposing looking. He's in a tattered cloak, and he is playing a lute and singing the Dornishman's Wife song. And Jon doesn't give him any consideration whatsoever.
Not even a little bit.
Which is a real rookie mistake.
Because
and so,
the way that Magnar takes charge of things when they walk in and is like, "Who's this? You were supposed to kill them all." He has the vibe of like the guy in charge, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's understandable why Jon's attention was completely directed at the guy who's sort of being accusatory at Rattleshirt, and Rattleshirt seems to answer to him in a way. So, yeah. But
I will say that Jon comes to the conclusion that Mance Rayder has to be one of those two guys before any of them speak.
Oh, does he?
Comes,
okay.
Yeah, he comes in, assesses the room, sees, the women, the guy playing the lute. He gives us a good description of all the men, and then he says both the white-bearded man and the bald one were warriors. It was plain at a glance. These two are more dangerous than Rattleshirt. I wonder which one is Mance Rayder.
Ah.
And then the song ends, and Rattleshirt starts talking, and then they tell him, he slew the crow, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, Jon takes a look at the room, picks the two biggest guys in the room, and says, clearly one of them has to be the guy.
First of all, I want to say how excited I am that my boyfriend is finally here in the book. Because I love Tormund on the show so very much. And while he's white-bearded and a little bit more, like, rough around the edges in the book, I'm still going to picture him as my red-haired little scamp.
Little scamp.
So kind of the vibe that he gives me is just, like, a boy that's, like, getting away with mischievous deeds.
He's a rapscallion?
Yeah, he's got this look all the time. Like he just like made a face behind somebody's back and he saw that you caught him and he's looking at you like, yeah, but it was funny though, right? Like, that kind of kid face. I don't know. There's something about him.
I really enjoyed that actor in that role. I have to say it was, he was a lot of fun and he looked as if he were having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
While this was all happening, which is, something that I always enjoy, and it can be difficult for an actor to do that because you don't want them to take you out of the moment of the show of whatever you're watching, so you don't want them to be like too over the top with it, too campy, too ham-fisted. But if they can reach that really nice balance of being really immersed in the show and letting you be immersed in the show while you're also aware that this person is having the most fun they've ever had, that's always going to be fun to watch. And I thought he really did a good job of that,
He pops up in The Witcher, the same actor, at one point.
Oh!
But he has no beard, and honestly, he's still gorgeous without his beard. He's one of those unfair men with just like a completely cut jaw. But he plays such a creep in that I was just like, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
Give me back
I didn't watch. I know people loved it. I didn't watch it. people said it's coming back. I heard. Mm-hmm. If it's not already airing right now, it's coming soon. So Jon decides that he is going to think that that Magnar, is that what I said his name was?
Yeah.
I forgot that fast. That he is Mance, and he goes to like bend the knee and fucking call him Your Grace.
Oh my God.
And he is just like, Your Grace.
This is so good.
This guy.
Do you see this? Do you fucking see
this
right now?
Do you see this guy?
Whoever heard of a king without ears? His crown would just fall straight down to his neck. Oh, God, I love that so much.
It's so funny. He says, oh, he must be blind. Oh, my God. So, finally, he tells Jon to, like, turn around and maybe you'll find who you're fucking looking for. And the singer stands up and says that he is Mance Rayder. And everybody is shocked.
Well, mostly Jon is shocked that he knows who Jon is.
Oh, yeah. Everybody is shocked was me just being stupid.
Oh,
I didn't mean that they were literally shocked.
Well, they wouldn't be shocked anyway, yeah.
But yeah, so he introduces himself, and like you said, immediately it just says to Jon, and you're Ned Stark's bastard to Snow Winterfell. And Jon is just like, how could you even know that? What do you think about this being shocked? Is that shocking that he knows that Jon Snow is the bastard of Winterfell?
I think the fact that he knows that it's Jon is the surprising part. If you know Jon's name, I would guess that you probably know that he's the bastard of Winterfell because talk gets around eventually. But I think that the fact that he can tell that he is Jon Snow right out of the gate is the thing.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
What do you mean?
I mean, he does. He does. Like he knows. But Jon introduces himself as Jon Snow.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So once you tell somebody that I am Jon Snow, I don't think it's remarkable that somebody knows, oh, yeah, you're the bastard of Winterfell. Especially somebody like Mance Rayder.
Yeah,
That's what I
suppose. I think that really what it is that you and I are more aware of how it's possible to travel past the wall. And Jon just assumes that if you've come over the wall and you're with the wildlings, that is it. And you are no longer in touch with anything happening properly in Westeros.
Okay. Now, see, that makes sense to me. Because then that supports the fact that when he tells Jon Snow the story about, like, how's in your house? Mm-hmm. Jon is just like, what? Like, I when I read that bit, I thought that the surprise from Jon was more about the fact that Mance Rayder had, like, the ball, which I'm sure is part of it, right?
Sure.
Like, the balls to even do what he did. That it's sort of unheard of. But I liked what you're mentioning as far as for Jon, it was outside of his imagination that anybody would ever come back to the other side of the wall once you're out there. And I didn't think of that, so I like that a lot. That helps me with this.
Yeah, and Jon actually says at one point, like, but there's Castle Black would how could you get, and he's like, the wall's meant to stop an army, but one dude, it's fine. Mm-hmm. All I did was like climb it and then get a horse on the other side.
And it's weird to me that Jon has such a hard time with that because, like, not for nothing, but you on the other side of the wall right now. Mm-hmm. How'd you get there?
Well, but they went out through the gate.
I know. Like, but yeah, like, he's still not, at this point, Jon is not, I guess it's not a diss towards him because he doesn't know any better. But yeah, he's definitely thinking of the wall as being this impregnable or impenetrable thing that keeps the worlds completely separate. Mm-hmm. And only people of the Night's Watch can go between. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, he seems to be assuming that they can come and go as they please because they use, like, whatever the doors are.
The one entrance. He's like, okay, well, clearly that's the only door through, and we use it, so nobody else can get through. Ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like in his mind, like the rest of it is locked forever, and it just goes on. I guess also Jon does not know yet just how terrible shape the wall is.
That as well. Yeah.
I guess that comes later.
So he's also like very ordinary looking. It's mentioned that like, you know, Mance is I think he's supposed to be in his like 30s here.
Oh, really? I thought it was a little bit older than that.
This was a sort of an issue in the show when they cast the dude whose name I'm not going to ever remember, that everybody was kind of like, that dude is way too old for the role of Mance Rayder. Like, that doesn't really work. And it wound up being fine in a general way, but I personally wasn't a big fan with the way he played it. And I would have liked, I think, somebody younger that felt a little bit more like spry.
I will say that the description of him is not that it necessarily indicates that he's old, but the description of him is that he is a gray-haired man, which I read as being like an older man.
Listen, I resent that.
I do too. I'm full of gray hair.
As a 37-year-old woman with a lot of gray, long brown hair that had gone mostly to gray. He wore woolen leather. His only garment of note was his ragged black wool cloak, with its long tears patched with faded red silk, which winds up being part of his story later. Yeah,
it ends up being quite significant. So we find out that, well, a couple of things. First, there is, there's still some conversation in the tent about what Jon has done, what he did, that he killed the half-hand, and somebody tells Mance that he's a warg or close to it. I think that's Rattleshirt that says that when he first comes into the tent.
and fucking Tormund is like, nice, I like wargs. It's like, what a weird thing to say. Okay.
Somebody says, I think he says something like, Mance says something like, you killed my brother, but he was also my enemy. Like, what should I do? Thank you or curse you. And Jon gives a pretty clever answer to which all the men are approve of.
Oh, yeah, strength for that.
Yeah, well done, well said. And Mance is introducing the other guys, and he introduces Magnar, and tells Jon that Magnar means Lord in Old Tongue, and then he goes to introduce Tormund, our ferocious chicken eater, and is my loyal Tormund, and he's like, hey, you fucking gave this motherfucker his style, give me mine.
I love it so much.
And then the way he introduces him, I thought it was going to be like some more like really official, first of his name type shit. And I guess maybe it kind of is, but also like, it's so good.
Do you have it in front of you? Will you read it?
I do. It's here. As you wish, Jon Snow. Before you stands Tormund Giantsbane, tall talker, horn blower, and breaker of ice. And here also, Tormund Thunderfist, husband to bears, the mead king of Ruddy Hall, speaker to the gods, and father of hosts. To which Tormund says, yeah, that sounds more like me.
Oh, I fucking love Tormund so much.
It is really, really good. Really good. And we find out that there's a woman there named Dalla who is pregnant, and that is Mance's old lady. His woman, ball and chain. And he tells Jon to treat her like you would any queen. She is carrying my child. And there's something about that I liked as well, because Mance doesn't direct Jon to treat him like a king, but he definitely is like, you can treat my lady with respect, though. And I like that.
Agreed.
And
yeah, there's no pretenses on his part, but he's like, I'm going to make sure that you understand something.
Yeah, right? And then she's got a sister there who has got a friend.
Yeah, a pet her current pet. What the fuck? I'm no pet. Yeah. Shush.
And they bring Mance up to speed a little bit about how exactly they got Jon Snow and what was going on out there. And we find out that, how many brothers of Night's Watch there were, what happened to them. And Mance is like, so you got a boy from Castle Black with Rangers. Like, how'd you end up out there with them? Because you clearly aren't seasoned enough yet,
right,
to be out ranging this far. So what was that all about? And Jon has to kind of figure out a story to tell him.
Yeah, this was one of those things where I foolishly had this idea that Jon was just going to tell the truth. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I thought that, because it's like definitely not the way to play this. But yeah, I'm just kind of like, I guess and this is sort of how I operate in the world as well. So that's why I'm always anxious and trying to plan ahead. But my thinking is, you tell him that there's nobody but you, and then you get beset by the Night's Watch that is, in fact, beyond the wall. And he knows that you're a liar, and you guys are definitely going to be like outnumbering them. So in the end, he's going to know you're full of shit anyway. So what the fuck? You're going to screw yourself. Yeah. And again, it's just like what Jon did is the right thing to do, but I think a little bit too big picture sometimes. And sometimes you just got to like do the right thing in the moment and then fucking figure it out later.
Right.
Instead of trying to figure it all out ahead of time, which is how I try and work. And that's part of why I wind up standing still a lot of the time instead of doing anything.
Listen, I just sent a text to the group chat that asks that very question. It asks, where's my phone? There it is. It says, so are you the I'll figure it out as I go, then give up before I finish neurodivergent? Or are you the I need to research every possible thing I can until I become too overwhelmed to start neurodivergent?
Hey!
I'm the first.
Oh, clearly. Like, yeah, it's so obvious what each of us is. And for me, I wouldn't even say that I get so overwhelmed that I don't start. What I do is trick myself into thinking that the planning and researching is action. Mm-hmm. And that this is me doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then once like a week passes and my carefully laid out calendar that I've made has no check marks in it because I have not done the thing ever on one of those days that I assigned it to myself, then I just get to feel like a failure because I didn't do it. And I thought that I was like, I was doing really well at first. No, I wasn't. I just planned it out. That's not doing well.
Yeah. The planning and the doing, two different steps.
Completely.
So, to answer their question about what he's doing out this far is he says that, the villages were deserted. It was if everybody had vanished, and kind of signs suggested they were just trying to investigate that.
Right.
And Mance is like, and who told you about that and where we were? And before Jon could answer, Tormund is like, oh, it was fucking Craster.
Fucking Tormund. Oh my, and Mance is like, dude.
Like, I'm trying to do a thing over here.
And I love that Tormund's just like, I fucked that right up. Shit, this is why he's king, and I'm not. I guess I'll go.
It is the accountability and the self-awareness for me.
This is what I'm saying.
That will get me every time.
I fucking love that so much.
There is no like, oh, well, I did that so that this could happen. Or he's just like, yeah, you know what? That is my bad. What can you do?
I love it so much. Self-awareness is like my number one valued like personality trait. So Mance is basically like, all right, you know what? Everybody out. Get out.
You know what else Tormund says to like low-key a shot at the end after he's like been like, I fucked that up and that's why he's king. He goes, well, though, but Mance, he has cunning. He was raised a crow. So it's like he's got an unfair advantage on me.
My dick might be 3 times the size of his, but his mental dick, much bigger.
Mance tells everybody that they could go, and Tormund is like, me? And Mance is like, especially you. I wasn't prepared for how funny this whole thing would be. I was really tickled that the sort of I don't know, the sort of humor that Tormund brought to the show is also apparently going to be part of the book. Because you just never know how that's going to go. But he has just been delightful so far. It's really fun to see him in this chapter.
Yeah, I think it's really a testament to George's writing that he can write these characters that feel so genuinely funny, because there are a lot of... I've been doing a lot of like listening to audiobooks lately because I just feel like I need something more than a podcast. I need something continual to keep my attention. And there are so many books I read where the writer is clearly trying to infuse some humor by adding certain characters, but they don't know how to make someone funny.
Well, you know what's a good example is these fucking mummers and these jesters and shit.
Oh, God.
Like, you know, like that sort of forced kind of, oh, this is so funny, look at me, you know, kind of thing. A lot of times writers do that, like, inadvertently.
That's...
Like, they think they're, you know what I mean? Like, they think they're really doing a thing, but it comes across as a fucking, whatever is butter, what was it?
Butter bumps.
Oh, my God. I feel like a 13-year-old boy laughing at this show. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I can't.
Oh, God. Yeah, there's, or there's like, oh, they're supposed to be the comic relief. And I'm like, they're just like kind of a fuckboy. Like they're supposed to be a bit endearing because they're like kind of a loser. But in fact, they're just really whiny. And I don't find them like, you know, relatable. So yeah, I just like there's moments like this, or with Lady Olenna, where he just really is able to write extremely different personality types and have them feel just genuine. They're jumping off the page and feel so distinct, and that is just not as easy to do as we think it is.
Clearly, because you know, yeah.
What was that?
That was just a little commentary on how hard it must be to do that, because he just isn't doing it anymore, is he?
Oh, shit. I thought you were throwing shade at other writers, but no.
All shade comes back to George R.R. Martin until them books come out.
All right, so yeah, Mance basically then puts Jon on the stand. And he first tells Jon how he knows him and that he snuck down there and was the fucking singer and harp player or whatever the fuck, guitar player. What is he playing? Is it a harp?
The lute.
Lute.
It was a lute in a tent.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's the fucking same thing he played at Winterfell.
Yeah, let's just say that. And then he tells the story of what caused him to turn his cloak. And he tells this, like, getting injured, and he is out amongst... Are they wildlings, or are they just, like, regular people?
I think that they're wildlings, because one of the things that he's trying to explain to Jon is that things are not as black and white as you have been led to believe.
Right.
And there's actually a lot of sort of inner... There's more
wildlings. I just checked. Yeah.
There's more interaction than you would believe. You know, we actually deal with them as a matter of business in a lot of times. So he's out there and he gets hurt, and they can't get back to whatever the closest castle is going to be, whether it's Castle Black or Eastwatch or whatever. They can't get there in time. Shadow Tower. That's what it was. So they end up going to a wildling village where they knew somebody was there that could help heal him.
Right.
And and that person is actually dead. But there's a younger person there.
I don't know why that made me laugh at the time.
It did, too. It's the way he says it, too. It's like, it's, you know, as it turns out, he says she was dead as it happened. But yeah, he goes and she heals him, and then, what happened is he's attacked by a shadow cat. So it rips his cloak, and not only does she sort of heal him, but she also sews his cloak back together with these red silks,
right,
to patch it up. And after he's recovered, he goes back to the Night's Watch, and they're like, "You can take all that shit off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're black." And he's thinking to himself, like, I don't want to be someplace that won't let me wear the cloak that I can choose, and where kissing is not a crime. And, like, why is this my life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he mentions that, like, the silk that she used to patch it was probably, like, a really treasured thing because silk is so expensive. That's right. So they're just, like, immediately going to throw it away. And he's like, they gave me something and healed me, even though I was very much not on their side. And you're just going to have me fucking toss it because it's not black? Is that what we're doing?
Yep. I love that part. And he told him, like, whoever this Sir Malister tells him that, you know, this cloak that he's got, this tattered cloak, is not good for anything burning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he asked Jon, because he had asked something of Jon, and Jon says, "You tell me first." Like, what made you turn? That's what it was.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and he tells the story. And then, because he tells this story, it informs Jon enough to figure out what his best story would be to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like what can I say that will not only be believable, but will also resonate?
Right.
You know? And
I love that when Jon says, "Tell me yours first," it says something like, "Mance smiled as Jon had hoped he would because he was clearly a man who liked the sound of his own voice." Yes.
Yeah, I like that too. What a fucking wonderful example of Jon being, like, really keyed in to the type of person that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's funny because just a few moments before we saw Jon try to make, like, a judgment and assess the situation, and he, like, missed wildly, right? But then he recovers.
Yeah, completely.
And you always want to see, I always want to see that, you know, you always want to see your characters that you're invested in, like learn from their mistakes and, like, adapt and grow. So he tells the story, and it's not even a whole long thing. He just tells them, all right, well, you were at Winterfell when the king was there. You remember where everybody was sitting? You saw us all, right? Mm-hmm. Looked great. Do you remember where I was? And that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Yep. Did you see where they put the bastard? And Mance looks at Jon and is like, you know what? I think we better find you a new cloak. Yeah.
This is one of those where it's interesting because Jon really specifically thinks to himself there's only one tale that he might believe. Mm-hmm. But then he says something that we know is what he was feeling that night. Mm-hmm. Like, he was very particularly... He had a conversation with Tyrion about it because he was feeling so pissed off. Yeah. So it's sort of like he has this emotional distance mentally about the story he's going to tell. But there's definitely truth to the emotion behind it, you know?
Absolutely. And that's why it works, because it's real. Mm-hmm. You know? It says that after Jon says that Mance takes, like, a really good, long, like, searching look or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, like, you know, it's fucking the George Costanza. Like, you know, you always want to have, like, a kernel of truth be, you know, the foundation for your lie. And then the next thing is, you know, it's not a lie if you believe it's true, which that part doesn't necessarily apply to Jon in this moment. But the sort of, like, the best way to make somebody believe a thing is to really base it in something that's true. Mm-hmm. So the Jon being a traitor is what is the lie here.
Right.
But the story he tells to explain why he would become a traitor is 100% true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like somebody has mentioned this in the Discord that the way in the show that Jon convinces Mance Rayder that he means it is different, and I can't remember, like, how he does it, if it's the same like, I don't recall at all how this conversation goes in the show. but the simplicity of it here,
Yeah,
I really
it's really
like.
something.
Yeah.
I like it too. I like it for a couple of different reasons. One, to me it feels like the setup. You're expecting this whole long thing, right? Mm-hmm. And it turns out to be not that at all. So I think that was a really neat way to sort of subvert your expectation of like, okay, we're going to watch Jon weave this tale. And that's not at all what he ends up needing to do. And I like that it is similar enough to the idea that Mance has expressed about why he left, which is the feeling of like, you know, not really getting a say in your own life.
Our value system is off, bruh.
It's true, it is. But yeah, I like that the story is similar. Jon's story is similar enough to Mance that it makes an impact, but it is not a like, oh, dude, you're just fucking riffing on what I already told you, trying to like do the same shit I just said. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like that either. It's a really nice balance, and it works. You know, it works really well. It's super effective.
Yeah, so that's like the introduction of a couple other characters that are favorites of mine.
Yeah, this should be fun.
I wanted to mention some stuff. I just opened the notes that Austin sent, and he mentions that Mance is criminally underused in the show. I remember that as well. That's the thing with the show, is that there are so many great things they can't include. There's just like not time.
There was like, I feel like he was on the screen like 3 times. And then he was gone.
Mm-hmm. And personally, like I said, I didn't love the casting. Like I just didn't feel him as Mance. He didn't feel tough enough to me. But it's fine. But then there's another thing that he mentions about the Queen of Thorns. And I had forgotten about this. And this is not a spoiler. It's just some fun backstory. So I do want to mention it. She says at one point they tried to marry off to a Targaryen, but I assume put an end to that. Do you remember that line? Mm-hmm. I do love it too, how she like mentions her husband, and he's like, he wasn't unskilled in bed, but you know, he was also kind of an idiot. But the tale here, thank you, Austin, for this story, because I had forgotten it, but I had read this at one point. The Targ Olenna was betrothed to was Prince Daeron Targaryen, the 3rd son of King Aegon, and the uncle of the Mad King. One problem: he was gay and in a relationship with a knight from Highgarden, Sir Jeremy Norridge. In pretty quick succession, Daeron told his parents the wedding was off and he would never marry, and Olenna seduced her future husband, Luthor Tyrell. All things considered, it worked out well for both of them. Olenna avoided marrying a 3rd son who would never be king and married a powerful lord, and Daeron and Jeremy remained together until they died together in battle.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's funny. Like, it's just so similar to, you know, Margaery wound up actually married to a gay man but it was, like, so short-lived that she wound up getting out of it. Sort of, I want to say thank God, but also, you know.
Yeah, also sad.
And, yeah, he does mention that Sansa was going to be betrothed to Loras, which is a lot of a different vibe, really. And he also mentions the mention of Garth Greenhand, a mythic sorcerer demigod said to have been the leader of the first men when they fought the children and founder of most of the houses in the Reach.
Yeah, that's when she's like, yeah, we're all descended from him. Because Sansa says something like, oh, but you're... And Olenna's like, yeah, we all are. Everybody.
I did not remember this guy's name at all. Garth Greenhand. And I don't know why, but there is something about that name that feels very, like... It just sounds like the kind of, like, fake Facebook name that, you know, like you and I were talking about the other day. That's what I keep thinking about. Oh, no. Sorry, guys. That's my caffeine alarm. We don't usually record during the day, so I forget that's a thing.
That I've heard that alarm a couple of times before. I think this is something we run into on Saturdays.
Now it's Saturday, yeah, because we never used to record at this time. And if we recorded at the time that we say we will, it would not be an issue.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it is 4:30.
I'm saying.
We have been 4.5 hours. Y'all.
I'm saying. Guys, again, talked for 3 hours, and we kept being like, okay, we got to start. Literally, Rashawn was like, wait. We went and, like, she went to smoke. I went to the bathroom to get more water. I come back, and she's like, we can't start. I have 2 things. And then before we knew it, it was like another hour had passed, and we were like, okay, no, really. I can't imagine what it is like for people who just get together and record, and then they are done. Like...
I don't know what that life must be like.
I have never experienced that with anybody that I like co-host with, you know. Miles and I tend to get to the point sooner than I do with everyone else that I've recorded with, but even then it's because he has like other appointments after. So there's like a deadline, you know. Ugh, I'm terrible about it. Okay. All right. So that is the end of those chapters. Is there anything else you want to add about those before I say hi to new patrons real quick?
No. But I really enjoy both of them.
Yeah, this
and
is fun.
I like this. We're starting like things feel like they're starting to really start moving. You know, there's a lot of like new people being introduced between like King's Landing and Margaery and Lady Olenna getting there, and then Jon meeting up Mance Rayder. I feel like things are starting to open up a little, and I'm here for it.
All right. Well, guys, sound warning real quick for ye old air horn. Welcome to new patrons! Katie Bradshaw, Dominique Taylor. Welcome to both of you. We love you. We appreciate you. Hope that you are enjoying your experience as a patron. I just like every time that there's a new person, I'm like, I would like to just be able to go up to you and personally shake your hand and be like, hi, thanks. But yeah, I always am curious as well, like when people become patrons, what made them do it? And I think that there's like an entry and exit interview that Patreon will sometimes do, asking people what, you know, but I don't like to read the exit interviews in case it's just like something mean. It's like almost never been. It's almost always my financial situation changed.
Yeah.
But every now and then it's like, she's too feminist. And I'm just like, oh. But anyway, I'm always curious, like, is it the Mistborn? Is it the postcards? Is it just that you want to support the show because you are a
awesome
large-hearted, wonderful person? And either way,
I say it's all of those things.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Mm-hmm. So
it's a heady mix.
I don't know why the word heady always makes me laugh, but it always just feels like, I don't know what to call it, so I'm just going to imply that it like fucks me up. You know what I mean?
That's why I like to say it.
This one will fuck you up. But yeah, make sure to join the Discord and you know, the Facebook groups as well, although I'm on there a bit less. And
I'm on there a bit more.
Yeah, Rashawn's in there a bit more. And appreciate all of you so much. You know, if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled. And you can do that. You can do that for just, 1 month if you want, and then sign off. That's fine. I have a lot of people that will become a patron and then sign off, and the next month they're not, but then the following month they are. So it's like every other month I get the same name notified that they just became a patron. I'm like, I know them. They're here all the time. But yeah, like that's what you have to do sometimes if you want to support, but you just can't afford to, like, if you have several shows that you'd like to be a patron of and you can't afford to pay $60 a month on Patreon for all of the shows you're supporting, doing every other one, that's a pretty good solution, honestly. Anyway, okay, so thank you guys again, and of course you can go to unspoiledpodcast.com, facebook.com/unspoiledpod, although Facebook has just been a bitch lately and won't really let me do much. And the link to the Discord will be in the show notes for this, and that is open to non-patrons as well, so you guys can all come join even if you're not a patron. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey.
Hold on.
Baron Jon, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.